Today we're talking about coffee and genetics. We'll go over the genetics behind our taste preference for coffee, our body's reaction to coffee, and how we metabolize coffee. And bonus point, what our coffee genetics mean for our reaction to environmental toxins. Hello, welcome to Dr. XY's channel, where you will hear fun facts and knowledge about genetics from a board-certified clinical laboratory geneticist. So let's dive in. In a cup of coffee, you can taste bitterness, acidity, sweetness, dairy fat, and sometimes even a little bit of saltiness. The bitter taste comes from caffeine and quinine. Human can taste bitterness because of a family of taste receptors that's encoded by over a dozen of genes that are attached to our genes. The genetic code within these genes can vary from one person to another. For example, one of the genes attached to R38 determines if you can taste the bitterness in the compound called glucosinolates, which is found in cruciferous vegetables such as Brussels sprout, cauliflower, and kale. This genetic correlation is so strong that before there was DNA testing, these bitter compounds used to be put onto test strips and tested on babies for paternity testing.
What?
I feel bad for those babies. Meanwhile, not all bitter taste has such a strong genetic correlation with a single gene. The taste for caffeine and quinine may be controlled by several genes, so the genetic determination is more complex. Besides genes for bitter taste, scientists also discover genes for sweet, salty, and fatty taste. Our preference for sour taste is also indicated to be genetic, but the gene has not been confirmed. One thing to note is that there's not a direct correlation between the sense of the taste versus our behavior towards the drink. For example, we should not assume that just because someone can taste bitterness, they will avoid coffee. When someone is able to perceive the taste, it simply means that they will know what the taste is like, so then they can associate that with a plethora of reactions that their body is having towards the drink. And they may remember it as this is the taste, and this is how I react to it, therefore I like it, or vice versa. And that is a complicated decision for such a complicated drink. Among many chemical compounds in coffee, we will talk about the most important compound of them all, and that's caffeine. Caffeine is a stimulant. It stimulates wakefulness via competing with the neurotransmitter adenosine. Adenosine accumulates throughout the day in our body. It is a natural indicator of how long we have been awake and how hard we have worked. By the end of the day, our body would have a high level of adenosine. It will bind to its receptors and trigger downstream reactions that will make us feel sleepy and we want to go to bed. Its level goes down throughout the night as our body rests and recovers, and the next morning the cycle restarts all over again. I know I'm very passionate about sleep-related topics, so check out my videos linked below. Today we're talking coffee. So think of adenosine receptor as a lock, and adenosine it is matching key. When you insert the matching key into the lock, it unlocks all the wonderful downstream events that will make us feel sleepy and we want to go take a rest. Caffeine, on the other hand, is a key that looks somewhat like adenosine, but it does not match the adenosine receptor perfectly. So now it jams itself into the lock is still locked, and the rightful keys are all around and they cannot do their job and we don't feel sleepy. And scientists discovered that the genes that instruct how these locks are constructed is going to influence our brain's response to caffeine. These are called genome-wide association studies, where scientists compare and contrast the frequencies of different forms of genes between those people who stay awake for a long time after drinking coffee and those who don't have such strong response. And the particular gene that they found to be important is adenosine receptor A2A. These are association studies, and that's just what they are. We don't know why, we don't know how. Perhaps some people's adenosine receptors are better at distinguishing between caffeine and adenosine, or perhaps for some people their receptor just doesn't play as big a role to stimulate sleepiness to begin with. We don't know for sure. Regardless of how our brain responds to caffeine, our body needs to metabolize it so we can get rid of it. And for that, we turn to liver. Caffeine is metabolized in our liver, and most important enzyme to do the job is cytochrome P450-1A2, CYP1A2 for short. And depending on which variant of CYP1A2 gene you have, you can be a slow or a rapid metabolizer for caffeine. For slow metabolizers, caffeine will stay at a higher level for an extended period of time in their body. So compared to the rapid metabolizers, they not only will stay awake for longer, they're also at a higher risk of developing caffeine overdose medical conditions in the liver and kidney. So if you are a slow metabolizer for caffeine, but still like the taste and the health benefits of coffee, perhaps decaf is a better choice. So should the rapid metabolizer celebrate? Not yet, because CYP1A2 also helps convert pro-carcinogens into carcinogens. In another word, it helps activate those nasty environmental toxins. And that's our bonus point today. Say dioxin. This is what we will have to inhale when there is a forest fire. And dioxin does not dissolve in water, so we cannot simply urinate it out. To help get rid of it, our body uses CYP1A2 and other enzymes to convert it into a charged chemical. So now it's water soluble, it can go. The problem is, before it leaves, it will do some damage first. DNA is also charged. So now this water soluble charged compound can bind to DNA and cause mutation, and then it starts the whole saga of carcinogenesis. So people with rapid enzyme activities of CYP1A2 would convert pro-carcinogens to carcinogens faster. CYP1A2 also metabolizes certain medications, so rapid metabolizers will need higher dosage of these medications. So that's it for today. Coffee is a wonderfully complicated drink. Today we went over the genetics behind how we taste it, how we respond to it, and how we metabolize it. And what do all these mean in terms of how we might respond to environmental toxins? If you find it helpful and useful, like, share, and subscribe. And check out my other videos about genetics behind alcohol consumption and how genetic testing can help guide the usage of medication for psychiatric disorders. Thank you for visiting, and I will see you next time.